17th and 18th of May 2024 will set an agenda for the rising of the continent of Africa. Africa, for quite a long time, has experienced deficits of leadership capital. And the deficit of leadership capital in the continent has caused us great shame, poverty, and disgrace. All over the continent, with all the resources that we have not been able to make a lot of progress like we should. And emerging leaders from all over Africa and friends of Africa are beginning to ask, can Africa transform? Can Africa join the list of growing continents that are making progress to make great progress? Can the nations of Africa rise and help get our people out of poverty? That is the question that we're asking. It is in view of trying to look at the population of the continent filled with a lot of young people with promise not being able to be optimized. It is at the level of that we begin to say the challenge facing the continent is simply the challenge of leadership. And it is as a result of that we are beginning to have a rethink. Instead of complaining, instead of causing Africa, instead of saying Africa cannot make progress, that it is time that progressive leaders across Africa are coming together to say, let us begin to create a forum, a system that will enable leadership to become a subject matter that will be discussed across the continent with so much focus on the concept of transformational leadership. And that's why the theme of the first Africa Leadership Conference taking place in Accra, Ghana on the 17th and 18th of May 2024 is Transformational Leadership, the panacea for Africa's rising. So we're going to be coming to Ghana, Kempinski Hotel for that matter, getting leaders from over 30 countries in the entire continent of Africa, aspiring leaders, leaders in public sector, private sector, all of them who are interested in the new Africa, an Africa that will celebrate leadership capital from the perspective of servant leadership, from the perspective of transformational leadership, from the perspective of selfless leadership that will place premium on humans and the rise of humans in the continent. And the conference will be dealing with specific issues that has to do with personal leadership opportunities and development opportunities and skills necessary for individuals to be able to grow and become more effective in their workplaces, become more effective in their countries. Those who are in government, they will gain leadership skills that are essential for their progress within government systems as well. And so we are very, very glad that this conference is coming at a time like this in Africa, where the demand for quality leadership has become such a daily feature across one capital of Africa to the next. Africans in the diaspora are also thinking that they are left out in the prosperity of nations. And that's why, for me, this conference is key. And I'm glad and excited to state categorically that everyone who is going to be part of this conference from every part of Africa will experience transformational leadership growth opportunities like never before. Everyone who's going to be part of this conference will be transformed personally. That at the end of this conference, with the quality of speakers that are coming from all over the continent as well as diaspora, from Professor Lumumba, PLO Lumumba, coming in from Kenya, one of Africa's best, to President Olusegun Obasanjo, one of Nigeria's best leaders, and a statesman across Africa making a difference, to Dr. Akiomi Adesina, the President of African Development Bank, and so many other leaders that are lined up to ensure that the experience that each participant, which each delegate will get, will begin a new course in the history of how personal transformation will lead to institutional transformation, will lead to organizational transformation, will lead to the transformation of nations. Leadership capital being the foundation for that type of progress. So having said this, we have also come together, this morning to say that we have present in our midst the leaders of the GOTNI CEOs Forum. I mean, a forum that has been set up precisely to actually mobilize other CEOs across Africa to do business differently, to do business, stating the nature of integrity in business, in leadership, the nature of providing emotional intelligence in their businesses, the nature of ensuring that these CEOs are calling for other CEOs to begin to get involved in their own personal leadership development, as well as development of the teams that work within their organization, so that these CEOs are committed to transformational leadership, and they are driving this effort to ensure that we have CEOs from all over the continent of Africa also get involved in this conference, and to ensure that this conference becomes a springboard for CEOs that will arise, that have honor and integrity, and that will drive growth, and then have peer review mechanism that will be able to make Africa work. To jumpstart, to just support the things that I've said, may I call on the president of the CEOs Forum to add his voice to the conversation.
Thank you. The founder, GOTNI Leadership Centre. Yes, that is, you've heard from the founder. We all know that God did not create Africa to fail. I believe that Africa has a lot of resources, both human and natural resources. But you agree with me that the lack of leadership, good leadership in Africa, has continued, to take the continent to some sort of stagnation. And whether we like it or not, at GOTNI, we must understand that entrepreneurship is an act of taking responsibility. And entrepreneurship is an act of leadership as well. So whether we like it or not, we must realize that finding solution to Africa's teething problem lies in the hands of great leaders, entrepreneurs, people that know that they must be able to develop a new system and transform the continent. But at GOTNI has taught us to be responsible leaders. And that is why GOTNI is taking it as a responsibility, to create a discourse, around the continent Africa, bringing together, leaders that are concerned to find solutions to our problems in Africa. And on the 17th and 18th of May, we give us this opportunity, to come together through mind-blowing speeches, from transformative leaders that will give us an opportunity, to engage ourselves in workshops where we can have at least a three-dimensional approach, to Africa's problem, and we can be able to start to begin to talk about solutions. This conference is going to be giving an opportunity to bridge the gap, between Africans home and abroad, which also will play an important role, in charting a new course, for Africa. Whether we like it or not, we must understand that humanity originated from Africa. And if you look at what is happening in the world today, the rest of the world have moved far, far ahead of Africa. And this is why we must be able to look inwards and understand that we can only create solutions to our problems ourselves. And looking at Nigeria, the giant of Africa, the most populous black nation that we have in the world, it is the responsibility of Nigeria, to chart this course. And that is why, as the president of the GOTNI CEO Leadership Forum, I will be leading an average of about 200 CEOs from Nigeria to Ghana, where we are going to be meeting other CEOs across Africa, numbering at least about an average of about 300. So looking forward to having at least about 500 CEOs across, Africa, at this conference, discussing, the problem, and not just discussing the problem, but finding solution and understand the reasons why we must chart a new course, and develop a new approach to finding a solution to our problem in Africa. Africa has so much opportunity, both human and natural resources, but these resources has failed to translate to results due to bad leadership. And you agree with me that they say there is no vision, there is no leadership where there is no vision. And this is why we must be able to create room for visionary leaders to come across, and chart a new course, for Africa. Our leaders must understand that we have to create a new generation of leaders in Africa who will give, active responsibility to build their immediate communities by finding solutions to this problem. So the founder has said it, and as the president of the CEO GOTNI Leadership Forum, we are also putting in a lot of work identifying like minds across Nigeria and across Africa for us to begin to discuss and also taking action to find solutions to this problem. So we look forward, to this event on the 17th and 18th of May, which of course will happen at the prestigious Kempinski Hotel, in Accra, Ghana. So see you there.
Thank you very much.
Africa is finally getting to take its center stage in the world. Being a continent with over 1.4 billion as at March 2024 population, we should create our impact in the world. The world needs to feel the impact of Africa. It's sad that we have been plagued with very poor leadership in the last several decades, despite being the first civilization in the world. But with GOTNI leadership and then a forum like this GOTNI Leadership Centre overall, there's hope. Because Africa is a country blessed with human, natural, very rare natural resources. So then, why have we been unable to harness these resources to take center stage in the world where we deserve to be in? Statistics shows that by 2050, Africa will contribute a quarter of the population of the world. That is no small feat. So it's time we begin to plan towards ensuring that we harness our resources, like the former president of Ghana mentioned at a recent infrastructure summit, that Africa's problems will only be fixed by Africans. We should stop looking to the West for our solutions. We should stop looking to the East for our solutions. Our solutions reside here, putting together the enormous wealth of human resources that we have amongst our teeming population to ensure that Nigeria, as the largest population in Africa, will lead that course. So we're joining forces with our representatives all over Africa to ensure that we achieve this objective. First of its kind is the CEO conference we are holding in Ghana, come May 17th and 18th. And I want everybody to stay tuned to see what we do in the next decade from this forum. Africa will take its center stage, and GOTNI will be central to achieving that through the CEO Forum. Thank you.
Please, on that note, while we are... This is not a talk shop. The conference is a learning system. The conference, this is going to be the first conference you're going to attend that each person attending the conference is interested in increasing his personal leadership capacities and competencies. We have had a lot of talk shops so that when these individuals are in positions of leadership, these individuals, because of the knowledge that they have, because of the selflessness that is in their knowledge and their systems, they will take decisions that will be pro-Africa. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Because most times, leaders take decisions that are anti their own people as a result of personal interest. But if these leaders learn how to be selfless, they will take decisions that will add value to the people. So this is a school, a learning system. It's not a talk shop where people just go and discuss problems and they go not learning anything. I just wanted to make that clear. Yes. To note that the population of Africa at the moment has at top of it youth population. And we either will say to ourselves, are these young people assets or liabilities? If we call them assets, then countries of Africa will sponsor some of their young people to the conference to come and increase their leadership knowledge so that when they become transformational leaders as young people, they can create their own wealth. They can jumpstart their own enterprise. They can become useful to them. They'll be optimized. And once they are optimized, they will not think in the realm of production and not in the realm of consumption. You see, that's the difference. And that is why African Development Bank most recently was talking about creating a youth bank. And if you create a youth bank and the young people have not been transformed, their mindset not transformed, they will waste the bank's money. But if they are prepared, then when that bank comes, what happens? Young people can optimize and maximize the opportunities. And then you can see a critical mass of young people growing to be responsible leaders, transforming systems, visionary leaders, creating new ideas that can save Africa from where it is right now. So that's why this conference is the most important thing that is happening in the continent this year. To note that the population of Africa at the moment has at top of it youth population. And we either will say to ourselves, are these young people assets or liabilities? If we call them assets, then countries of Africa will sponsor some of their young people to the conference to come and increase their leadership knowledge so that when they become transformational leaders as young people, they can create their own wealth. They can jumpstart their own enterprise. They can become useful to them. They'll be optimized. And once they are optimized, they will not think in the realm of production and not in the realm of consumption. You see, that's the difference. And that is why African Development Bank most recently was talking about creating a youth bank. And if you create a youth bank and the young people have not been transformed, their mindset not transformed, they will waste the bank's money. But if they are prepared, then when that bank comes, what happens? Young people can optimize and maximize the opportunities. And then you can see a critical mass of young people growing to be responsible leaders, transforming systems, visionary leaders, creating new ideas that can save Africa from where it is right now. So that's why this conference is the most important thing that is happening in the continent this year. Not a technical conference. This conference is a leadership conference. The leadership conference is talking about personal transformation. We talk about leadership from a just discuss problems up there. But meanwhile, the critical issues that is dealing with Africa is issues like integrity or lack of it. Issues like vision or lack of it. Issues of selflessness or lack of it. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Issues of, so when there's deficit of integrity, the corruption thrives. So you now want to create a bedrock of good thinking citizens of the continent who are thinking vision, who are thinking prosperity from the perspective of production, creating wealth, and not people who go about looking for opportunities to take from the continent. We are looking for. Jeff Kennedy made a statement. He said that America must do what? must understand this fact, that America must think about what to give America and not what to do what? Take from America. Africans must think about what they can give to the continent and not what they can take from the continent. If we build a critical mass of selfless leaders, then we have a generation of leaders that will emerge and save Africa. Africa can become a continent of prosperity, of growth, as a result of transformational leadership is on the increase. If you ask me, this is the greatest conversation this year, and we will drive it from one center of the world to another. We will take this conversation from one city of Africa to another city, that it is time for a new generation of leaders to emerge in the continent, and we'll stop blaming the West for a problem in that sense, and take responsibility, so that if we grow Africa and Africa works, then all those who are in diaspora will come back to the continent and celebrate here in the continent. Africa is going to work, and we can't wait to have you, all of you, come. We invite you to be part of the process. Only 600 delegates will be accepted from all over the continent. The competition starts. Every country, your slot is very, 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 very low. So you have to do everything you can to make sure that you start registering. And a blessing will actually guide us on how we can register for this conference.
Okay, just recap, which is the fact that we have a youthful population. All over the world, most of the tribes have maxed out. So our problem in Africa is not a lack of resources, it's a lack of leadership. And it's time we put that center stage and deal with it, which is what the GOTNI Forum has been able to decipher and to extract. So we're putting all our best into one goal to look at this problem of leadership in Africa with a view to get a lasting solution, to ensure that come 2030, come 2050, Africa will take its enviable position in the world as a global force to reckon with.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Also, we must, we are always focused at believing that it's government that will solve the problem for us. So everybody must see themselves as a solution to the problem. We must think about that there's leadership, in the business world. We must understand that there's lack of leadership, in the government world. We must understand that in the educational and health sector, all these create a community, of leadership, addressing that leadership deficits, leadership capital, that is missing, in growing Africa. We have these resources, but these resources can never translate to results, without having people that understand, that this is what they can do. As I said, everybody that comes into the system, think about what they can take from the system, and that is why the responsibility lies on entrepreneurs, it lies on leaders. We understand that whatever that you have, must be given back to the growth and the